Welcome to the Enneagram 2.0 podcast. I'm Beatrice Chestnut.
And I'm Uranio Pies.
And today we are talking about the way of the Enneagram.
Yes, our brand new retreat before the other retreats we have. It's something we are coming up early 2024 for students, and we're going to explain it here while we make sure that the podcast will cover interesting things for everybody.
Yeah, we're basically going to talk about how people who have learned about the Enneagram and have maybe learned their type or gotten interested in knowing the types of the people they know, but haven't really used it in a deeper way. What kinds of things can they start thinking about doing if they want to take their Enneagram work to a deeper level? And if you're someone who has already taken their Enneagram work to a deeper level, this might give you some ideas about how to inspire your friends and family who you maybe would like to get more into the Enneagram, but they haven't actually done it yet. Of course, we can't push people, but we can inspire them.
Yeah, and some advanced students of ours are saying they are willing to attend the workshop because we're going to do panels of the 9 types, and therefore they're going to learn more from people, which is a great way of learning. Because they are the true specialists more than us, right? About being themselves. And so I think, Bea, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, I think that we are doing this for several reasons, but one of them being helping people make that bridge between taking the Enneagram as a curious and attractive typology to using the Enneagram for inner transformation. It's a bridge. And at the same time, it's not, the big deep dive that we used to do in our former retreats that will keep happening.
But we still do. We used to do it. We do it ongoingly.
Yes. They are a very, very important part of what we do. And they also constitute what we call the personal mastery program and also parts of the professional certification program that we do at CP. But we noticed that sometimes it was a little bit too much for students to go straight to those programs. And we want to make it more feasible, both for being online, having 1 or 2 less days than those other retreats, and being that bridge that doesn't go too deep, but goes deep enough for people to really start embodying Enneagram work more than Enneagram knowledge solely. Do you think that this describes a little bit the reasons why we're doing it?
I think so, yeah. It's sort of like people who want to dip their toe in the pool, as it were, rather than dive into the deep end. Sometimes at our inner work retreats, which most people come away from feeling very, very positively impacted, as you say, they also sometimes say it's more intense than they thought it would be, right? So that's in many ways a good thing. But I think we realized we wanted to give people more pathways to explore a little bit about what it means to do inner work with the Enneagram in some more gentle ways. And again, it needs to be said, this is an online retreat. I think in-person retreats are often intense just by nature because we're in the same room together. And an online retreat can also be very powerful. But this one will be with a larger group of people, and it will be a way of sampling a slightly deeper level of work than some people may know about, and just to get a sense of what that looks like and what that means.
I don't think that you and I know how to do things that are not deep,
or long.
So I think that our challenge will be to not go too deep, but deep enough. We are not really about introductory Enneagram. I wouldn't call this the way of the Enneagram an introductory Enneagram thing. I think it is more like an experience of the Enneagram in the light of personal transformation. And it goes a little bit beyond what we did in our book, the Enneagram Guide to Waking Up. I think in that book we didn't do anything only introductory, because we talk about changes that people might want to consider doing in their lives.
Well, we sometimes joke that we don't do introductory, that we've tried, and we often have a hard time making it simple or not very deep. But we're trying again.
Yes.
Hope springs eternal. Well, that this time it will actually, well, it's not really an introduction. It's the way of the Enneagram, which is always going to be, by definition, because it's the Enneagram, something that is profound, that is about understanding yourself in a new way, creating a special kind of space in which you can see yourself in a much more holistic way, in a way that's not just about your type, but that's about putting into practice important elements of not only your type and subtype, but just different dimensions of the Enneagram model.
Yeah. And although we are not going to do individual work in what we call pieces of work with all students, all participants, we will have demonstrations of that. But that's different from the even deeper retreats, because in those we say we offer an opportunity for everyone to do individual work, but it's actually a requirement, right?
Well,
nobody doesn't do it.
People can say no. People can say no.
Which, but I don't remember anyone saying
no.
They
usually want to say yes.
Yes. Anyway, what I think the way of the Enneagram is an invitation to really look inside and look at your own history and stories on top of just learning about the Enneagram. So we're not really about talking about the map. We use the Enneagram map to apply it into people's territories type by type. And by doing that, we want to make it more alive, an alive teaching, and something that is not only about types, but it's also about what is my own journey. And with a lot of interaction in different ways. We use the chat on Zoom quite a bit, not only, the teachings themselves. And when I say way of the Enneagram, what I think is what the Enneagram offers us as shortcuts for growth and as reminders of the things we need to do. Do you agree?
Yeah, I also think it means understanding that a little bit about the Enneagram as a map of a process of transformation. That it's not just about knowing certain things about your type or what celebrities' types are. It's really knowing how to enter into a growth process that can be very deep, or as deep as you want it to be.
Right. Yeah. I think that our intention is also to bring in a little bit of the models we use to work with people. We'll certainly base ourselves in our model of levels of awareness and in bringing people to new levels, although we will not be doing, much teaching about that. It's right, helping students and participants to navigate through what we consider to be the main things that are needed, and also putting into practice, into action, many of the things we've been talking about here at the Enneagram 2.0 podcast.
It's like sometimes people ask us, like, well, what do you mean when you say inner work? Because we often say that the Enneagram is a guide to inner work, and this retreat will be a little bit about what we mean when we're talking about using the Enneagram to do high quality inner work.
Right. And, I think that for each type, there is a different thing that is required to take this bridge as a path to some more transformation, not only, sticking with the typology. Like, as an 8, I am assertive. I am a little bit straightforward, or, just descriptions of your natural way of being.
Mhm.
So for each type, there will be a great opportunity to look inside what are your first and maybe the second steps to go ahead and unveil things in yourself that most probably you haven't been in touch with still, right? Already. And I think we could talk a little bit about each of the 9 types and what we envision could be a few things that they can get to in terms of results, but not only for our course, but also for your own path forward here as a listener of the Enneagram 2.0 podcast. How does this sound? Should we talk a bit about this?
So we'll talk a bit about each
Each
type
type.
and what's your next steps if you want to
Yes.
take a Enneagram guided path.
Right.
What are some of the first maybe
Yeah.
insights or things that a person can work with of each type in order to start deepening their process around the
Right.
Enneagram beyond just knowing what type they are?
And I think that by talking about this, there will be an interesting opportunity for more advanced students now listening to this episode, which is, am I going for more sophisticated pieces of work with myself and transforming in specific ways, having bypassed what is really the basic that is required from me as that Enneagram type, right?
Having bypassed?
Like, have I forgotten to do something that Bea and Uranio are saying right now? And am I trying to work on more sophisticated things instead of just going for the basic that will make the biggest difference in my life?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So we always start with 8s. Sometimes 7s complain,
Mm-hmm.
but because they are last. But
sometimes 8s complain.
Sometimes 8s complain because it's like when we go, because we tend to be deep, we go deeper and deeper, and then 8s have a little bit less than other types, but we really try our best, and let's try our best to make it more balanced. Mm-hmm. So, do you want to start? Should I start?
Why don't you start?
Okay, so for 8s, I think that there is a very, very important first move, which is learning about your impact on others and being able to look, to see in between the lines while feeling how you come across being harsh for others. And at the same time, getting in touch with some initial level of vulnerability for yourself as something that can truly bring your energy a little bit lower in a good way for you. Because as we know, the passion of 8 is lust, and lust is about excess. So by touching your heart and staying in your heart, even though it's uncomfortable, I think that it's brilliant for 8s to experience how that makes them be more relaxed, more receptive, not as active, more in a feminine energy instead of a masculine energy, more yin than yang.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What would you say about this? Would you add anything?
Yeah, I guess one thing I would add is I think it's big for type 8s when they see how they can tend to think that their truth is the truth of a situation or how they see things, and to recognize that there are different points of view that might also be the truth or even closer to the truth than yours is. I think that can be true for all of us when we're trying to work on our ego, is recognize, okay, the way I see it isn't the only way to see it. But I think there can be a way a way that 8s have a harder time seeing that. And when they can, it creates a big shift for them.
Right, I agree. And just to mention one thing that's not only for 8s, as you said, we're going to do panels. Mm-hmm. Panels being interviews by groups of types, at least 3 or 4 for each type. And as we do those, we have choices. And many times when people do panels for the first time, they just demonstrate how that personality is, right? Like, tell me an example of how assertive you are, how straightforward you are, and how injustice is something that bothers you and you need to do something about. And this is for AIDS. However, the way we do panel does not stop there. We already help people get to that point where they can be touched in the inside, which will be a key thing for further change. It's not only about demonstration, so it's also about having a meaningful experience of what is the thing that I need to touch to be able to produce the change I deserve and other people in my life deserve. And of course, people watching that, as we know, as we see all the time, can be as touched or even more at times than panelists themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay, so let's move on to 9. So nines have this very big challenge of looking inside and not being caught just by external demands, being more concentrated in themselves. And that requires a little bit like feeling the pain of a life of self forgetting and getting in touch with some discomfort that will be transformational.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very counterinstinctive, though. And they need help from friends, therapists, coaches, or teachers who can help them be with themselves, like collecting the energy back inside themselves so that they don't disperse all that they are outside, not only to others, but also to things in life. So it's a lot about coming inside and getting in touch with otherwise is a cloudy heart in which I don't feel all the emotions that I can feel. And I also don't see everything that I can see that could be good things for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot about also solving doubts that I have for myself or who I can be in life.
Mm-hmm. The thing I think is fun to watch nines learn early on in the path that really shifts things for them is when they learn that it's actually a good thing to be angry.
Mm. Yeah.
Sometimes when I'll say in a workshop or a retreat that it's that anger can be a very positive thing for people to express. Sometimes if we're online, I get people in the chat, nines in the chat saying, can you please tell me why and how anger can be a good thing? So I think when they get that, it's actually positive for me to be in touch with anger, and my true friends in my life really invite my anger and encourage me and compliment me when I get angry, because it's me getting in touch with myself, and it's me drawing a line in the sand and making boundaries. And that leads to all kinds of good things for nines when they can learn to do that.
Right. And then there is a second step that nines get really surprised with, which is realizing how angry they already are.
Exactly right. And sometimes takes a little bit of doing, but hopefully it starts to be good news, even though it can, of course, also be hard and uncomfortable. But nines also learn that leaning into discomfort is really key for them when they want to grow.
Yeah, and if you're a 9, just know that when we do this kind of work, we provide a lot of support.
Yeah.
And that means that you don't need to be afraid of just getting in touch with something that you believe can be stronger than you or that will be hard to control. Much to the contrary, we seek, especially at this course, we seek for going to a new place inside ourselves and learning how to self-accept and to get the necessary holding and support to be there in this new step in our path forward. Okay, so a little bit about ones. We sometimes say that the path for growth for ones is being happier and doing things for fun and pleasure, having humor. And then we summarize saying ones need to get worse and not better.
Meaning they need to break rules
Yeah,
and have fun and not just do their duty and try to
right.
do everything right and work
Yeah.
really hard. They need to go out and play.
Yeah, and that is paradoxically very difficult for ones
Yeah.
because they need to stick to duty and to that inner critic. And when they go do these things, they feel very unprotected at times. They feel like they're not doing the right thing. And then they get attacked even more by the inner critic. But there are ways to deal with that while relaxing, having fun, and more. And we like to model these states for the students. Like when working with a one, and that is similar with all types, when working with a one, we really like to model that way of being and therefore encouraging those participants to try it out and to have new experiences. So we really aim for new experiences to all participants. And for once, at times, it has to do with getting in touch with what the real impulses for rest, for pleasure, for relaxation really are, right? And that requires a certain approach that doesn't focus on something that is a trap for all ones starting to study the Enneagram, which is now I understand how I must be better, right? When they
Exactly.
start studying the Enneagram, like I need to be less critical of others. I need to bring in leisure times for me, and then leisure becomes duty,
Right.
right? So how to not be caught into those initial traps that exist for all nine types, actually.
Right. I think for all nine types, this experience is designed to help them see what beliefs and assumptions that they just take for granted as fact or reality, how they need to really question those because they aren't really true. Like for ones, I think they have a sense that if they stop controlling themselves, if they stop following the rules, if they stop sort of doing things in a particular way according to what's right, that there will be chaos and disorder, that bad things will happen, that they will lose control somehow in a bad way. But what they really need to understand is how they are over controlling things, being overly responsible to the point where life is more constricted and less enjoyable than it could be.
Right. And B, you have some very special ones in your life, family members.
Right.
And I know you have a lot of care and love for ones. And I think you and me together, we do a good job in ITs. I have fun, and you really welcome them into your heart. Although we both do this,
Right.
and
You got to go to the humor when it comes to ones. And so it tends to be fun.
yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that you model acceptance, and therefore you invite them to use more self
To accept
acceptance,
themselves more. Right.
which perhaps is one of the most important antidotes
Yeah.
to the inner critic
Right.
that is very strong for once.
Right.
So at times in this way of the Enneagram, both for you guys trying it out at home and for our upcoming participants of this new retreat, it has to do with coming back to your heart and developing acceptance and also feel accepted by others. Because chances are that regardless of our type, we haven't been fully accepted by the type we are in our earlier lives. Okay, so choose, and I will want to hear a lot from you. But I've seen in this kind of work, helping choose, do the jump of going for something really new and deeper on the Enneagram. I've seen choose getting in touch with our own emotions in a new way, really coming outside in ways that they get in touch with not only what they feel, but what they need. and get in touch with some lack that they've been feeling in the inside, because many times, unfortunately, choose learn to live more from the good feelings they have when people are happy with them, which isn't really enough for a more complete heart fulfillment. And just one more thing before I hear from you as a true yourself. I think that it's super, super important for Jews in this initial quest that they get in touch with what is their inner world as a whole, like finding meaning in just being themselves. Like, who am I if I'm not relating and connecting to someone else? So while it's true that Jews learn a lot about themselves while connecting, there are other ways that are important. What about your connection to yourself?
Right. Right. Yeah. Learning to be more comfortable not being liked, I think, can be a big, um, can lead to a lot of insights for twos. It's hard, but it's very freeing. I think when twos start on a growth path and they start realizing how it's really all about paying attention to yourself more than you pay attention to others, and risking being more authentic and more straightforward and more honest, and being okay if not everyone likes that, or not everyone likes you as much as they used to when you were trying to tell them what was going to please them. That it's actually, you get a taste of freedom. You get a taste of, oh, what if I don't have to be totally oriented toward everybody else and meeting other people's needs, or being, nice in the way that I feel like I need to all the time, worrying about what people are going to think. When they really start saying, oh, you mean it's not only possible to do it differently, it's desirable. It's actually makes you have a better experience of life. It deepens your relationship when you're bringing
Right.
more of who you authentically are. And I think sometimes twos think they're being authentic, but they don't realize how much they are kind of presenting themselves in the way that they think other people will want them to.
Yes, yes, yes. And I wanna say to the heart types, starting with the Jews, that in this retreat we aim to have approaches and also resources to really touch each participant's heart, and to be, to get to a place of you know building the openness that is necessary for looking inside and respecting ourselves, wanting more for ourselves from a heart space. At the same time, that will do a little bit also at the same proportion, hopefully, with the body types and the head types. Like body types knowing what to do next, leaving the workshop with a clear guideline and impulse to go do what they need to do, and also the head types understanding more fully, but also from a lived experience, what they needed to know about themselves and the most important things for them on the Enneagram system when used for growth.
So you're saying that body types will learn what they need to do next. Head types will learn how to understand the path,
They will be touched in the heart, yeah, also.
and the head types will be touched in the heart.
Heart types, and then head types will be more, you know, um, more resourceful with knowledge about what really matters about each type, about the Enneagram. And out of this understanding, the head types will be able to, wow, just have the bigger picture that will boost them forward. My point being that during the retreat, we are going to address everybody's needs in terms of those three dominant centers of intelligence, with approaches that speak to all three. And therefore, what I'm saying is that For instance, the heart types that we're starting to talk to now can expect to be touched in their hearts. It won't be something only mental or only practical. So all people of all three dominant intelligences can expect at this retreat that we will speak to them in very specific ways. Like body types need examples, and we will have lots of examples from people. So just want to say that we will, out of our understanding of how to work with each type, we will be committed to communicating and prioritizing things that will make more sense for them. Should we go on to 3?
Yes.
Okay, so I think, B, that 3s, while they benefit a lot from going slower, from stopping, from having an easier time, I don't really see that that's much feasible in the very beginning. And I think that it's wiser for 3s to invest in seeing examples and feeling the risk of their lifestyles and looking at how they need to prevent problems that they can produce for self and others. It's a lot about what we say is the first arrow for 3, which is arrow to 6, before going to the arrow to 9, which would be more stopping and relaxing a lot. Many 3s can get there to the arrow of 9, but it's very important to enhance the fear itself of what may happen. And 3s keep running away from that emotional appreciation of what may happen. And also, I think that it's not difficult, at least in our approach, to bring 3s to be more directly in touch with their emotions, because emotions are around the corner for 3s, and they're never far away. But 3s just have this tendency to push them away to perform. So hopefully during this way of the Enneagram retreat, we'll see 3s getting in touch with a real emotional self, in which they will have an experience of who they really are, which includes being a very big heart. What would you add about 3s?
I think the bad news for 3s is that they really get the message when they really start to do inner work with the Enneagram that it's really all about feeling their feelings. And that can be hard at first for 3s. And it's also to some extent about giving up some of the rewards that come with being a 3, because 3s are very good at achieving success and doing it the way the culture around them makes them feel like they're doing it right. And so what they kind of need to learn is that doing it right according to what everyone expects of them actually leads them away from their true self. And so it's all about getting more in touch with their emotions. And sometimes that's just slowing down and letting emotions happen, which can be scary at first. But if 3s are able to be courageous and start to welcome their feelings, everything changes for them.
Right. Yeah, I agree. But I also see 3s finding a lot of relief when they feel not only as bad news. It's like, wow, now I don't feel as strange. Now I see that I have a heart, and they get in touch with something that's more stable and real within themselves, and they find more fulfillment. At the same time that any step beyond personality for all types is scary and needs adequate support.
Right. I was teasing the 3s a little
Yes,
bit, but because yes, they also get a taste of freedom, I think, when they start to recognize that it's okay to feel feelings. In fact, it's exactly what they need to do.
Very good job, Beatrice. I'm usually the one that teases more, and now I liked seeing you tease and me talking more about the good aspects.
Yeah, you're sort of serious today.
Yeah. Okay. So force have this possibility when they start doing more serious inner work of going beyond the territory of emotions that they have been using to define their identities. So it's not really only about emotions. It's a lot about being here and now, and being and focusing on what already exists, instead of just allowing their minds to go to what's absent, to go to what they lack. So there are ways to do that already in the beginning. There are some challenges that can be undertaken to be able to do that, and to have more moments of feeling okay, feeling enough, not feeling less than or even more than or just different. So hopefully we will help force have that taste at the same time that, as you well say, we allow force to be a bit more understood, to be listened to be empathized with, because many force don't have that experience much in their lives, either earlier in life or currently in life, because when people are not very comfortable with intense emotions, they just blame the emotional one outside.
Right. Yeah. I think that, you know me, I'm sort of on a mission to help fours be more understood. And I've seen even at some Enneagram workshops, fours be a little pathologized. It's a little bit like eights. I think sometimes eights also, people talk about eights a bit insensitively without always realizing it. So on the one hand, we're going to support eights in being able to be more sensitive and seeing that as a positive thing. Helping fours just acknowledge what's good about them, that sometimes they tend to look at more what's missing or what they don't have. And I think part of what is really good work for fours is to realize what is working, what is good about them, what's great in the here and now, and that nothing is really missing. Sometimes when they start seeing that, it leads to a lot of freedom.
Right. And at times I get very touched when I hear people, a few people that told us that after listening to our podcasts, they they felt transformed, but above all, they felt like it was a little bit like life saving. And we heard from a few people that, and especially from a few fours, because of this approach you have of just making, understanding them and making them feel okay for who they are, just as one of the nine types, not being worse than any of the other ones. And I felt recently very touched by someone who brought up a message that, just by listening to our podcast, she was very much more encouraged to
To
go
be
for good
herself.
things,
Yeah.
yeah,
To be
for
herself
herself.
and see things in a more positive light. Yeah.
Right. Now, we in the deeper retreats, I feel personally bothered by the fact that we don't get many fives.
Yeah, I'm
And I
sure.
wonder if it's because fives feel that we are too experiential,
Like
that we
it's
go
too
too
deep
deep,
and they're going to have to
or
share.
that although we teach some, especially at the workshop, the professional workshops, it's more about experiencing and doing, incursions in unconscious territories. So I wonder if it's that. And I really want to see more fives, for obvious reasons, at this retreat, because it will be especially safe for someone who finds it hard to share too much.
You mean the
And
fives don't have to share,
yes,
even though everyone else will be
well,
sharing?
they're welcome to. But if they don't want to, or if they want to have a first experience in
Right.
which
If
they
they want to
feel
be
that protection,
a little more of a spectator, they don't have to.
if they want.
Yeah.
But and also the online is a great format for
That's
fives, you
right.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You can turn your camera off sometimes, although we
Yeah.
encourage it to be on, but I would
Yes.
imagine that in this one, that's
Yeah,
okay.
but we do require like full-time participation from
Yes.
students. We
Yes.
take things
A
very
certain commitment.
seriously.
Yeah, yeah.
It's still a 4-day program, so it's don't expect it to be a weekend workshop
Yeah.
that is more shallow. By the way, some people who listen to the podcast have been coming to thematic workshops that we do.
Mhm.
Like we did one on centers, we did another one on love languages, one for parenting, and many other ones, including type related
Typing and
workshops.
mistyping. Yeah.
Yeah, typing and mistyping, but also for specific Enneagram types.
Oh, we're doing type retreats. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
done a few of those.
So sometimes the listeners of this podcast tell us that they want something more general Enneagram thing. And this is yet another reason we're coming up with this 4-day course, so that it's not only about one theme.
There's
or
now
about
something
one
for everyone.
Yes. So back to fives, and you see there is this tendency when we talk about fives to divert and to talk about more general things.
I wasn't the one who diverted.
Yeah. So fives, I think, need to understand through these workshops how their hearts are closed and what this brings to them that they don't easily feel. But knowing how hard it is to open the heart, and how on the other hand, that brings them this sensation of being different, as in weird, and at the same time the function of knowledge and information that fills in a gap that's not really mental, and how much we fives are attached to just the pleasures of the mind. But it's not just an understanding, it's like getting in touch with actually how much we miss deeper connection and deeper human warmth, and just being able to be with others and not running away from feelings and from actual life experiences. And that sometimes, I remember one of my first Enneagram teachers saying, and she was a five herself, she would say, fives can, with their egos, can be very knowledgeable, but rarely that becomes wisdom, because wisdom requires life experiences.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. So I think the fives can be supported by you, but also learn a lot from you as a good example of a five who's making efforts to not be, so afraid to be more open and be seen in a bigger way. And I think that fives often really want that deep inside, but there's a lot of resistance, which is understandable. But I think when they can experience something and hopefully dip their toe in, they can start to see what's possible and see the growth path as a positive thing.
Great. Okay. So, type six, I think it's important to say that sixes many times benefit from just going for action, because then fear goes away. It's like, it's incredible. Like when sixes stop procrastinating and they go do what they already know needs to be done, the fear is not there any longer. It's magical for sixes because fear exists only in anticipation. However, doing that requires opening the heart and going for the first step. So what is your first step as a six? And are you willing to really try it out with some additional support from people at this retreat? And also, how would your life be with less anxiety? with some more relaxation, with some capacity to be in your body and not only with that shaky heart. I also think that sixes need, already in the very first step, to develop the capacity to lower down their mental energies, because it's too much, and they are the center of the head triad on the Enneagram. I think that they are constantly thinking even more than fives. So if you're up to do that, if you're a six, come to the way of the Enneagram.
Yeah, and I think you tend to bring very positive messages for sixes and nines in particular. You often talk about how sixes and nines make really good leaders, and how sixes are actually really strong. And when they get in touch with that strength, it's very positive. So I think you particularly have a lot of good news for sixes, and help them see the courage and strength that's really in them.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for very important sixes in my life, just like you are for ones in your life. So finally, sevens, and let's make sure that they get as much as the other types did.
Hmm.
So sevens will learn actually how they can have more joy, and how that will be above their current experience of pleasure or just happiness, and how they are not seeing happiness as something that they are seeing happiness as if it's everything in life, but actually it doesn't really fulfill the heart and doesn't fulfill it for long. Above all, how happiness is a trap at times, because what our soul really wants is fulfillment, joy, an inner state of being completely at peace with self, with nature, and being more open, therefore, to what life brings, and not to all the planning they do. So sometimes, by getting in touch with some difficult episodes of their lives, sevens find a little bit of that relaxation, but also by stopping that excessive mental activity and attachment to different open windows in their lives, they also can relax a bit more, perhaps proving themselves wrong in a very specific way. They think it will be horrible. They think that finding peace will be boring. And they think that if they get in touch with some pain, they won't get over it. So we will be there to prove the sevens wrong through experience. But what would you add about that?
I think, sevens can take a big step forward on their growth path when they really see with more clarity how much they avoid being in the present moment, through distracting themselves, thinking about fun things they're going to do, through rationalization, which is the defense mechanism of type seven, where they find a good reason for whatever it is they want to do. But when they realize how they're fast paced, and they're moving from one thing to another, and planning all of the things they do to kind of manage their experience, actually keeps them away from the deepest kind of experience, which is really sinking into the now moment. I think that's the beginning of real freedom for them, and not just the fake freedom they get by trying to figure out how they're going to have the experience that they want all the time.
Yes, that's great. Yeah, so we hope that this was a first, like a bird's eyes view of what the upcoming retreat way of the Enneagram will be. Most definitely, the Enneagram 2.0 listeners will be quite welcome. We think that many of the listeners will be the public, that the target public that will be interested at this specific retreat that will start doing from early 2024. So now we have in our website, cpenneagram.com, the final calendar, the confirmed calendar for all in person and online courses for that new year. And check it out in case you're interested, in case you got interested, and in case you're up for this deeper first level of transformation. We'll certainly be very happy to have you there.
I think the way of the Enneagram is the way of self-knowledge, and it's the way of deeper self-understanding that leads to real liberation and greater freedom and fulfillment in life. So hopefully this will give people a taste of that.
Yeah, looking forward to it.